Hello, 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 hello. So, welcome to all of you who have come to this live. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes until some more people come in, and then we will sort of start the class. And hello to those of you that are on the recorded view. Hi, how are you? If you don't know, hi, my name is Alana, and I am a coach, and I really focus on identity and how your identity interacts with who you are, what you do, and how you go for your goals. So, in this class, we're going to talk about why finding yourself, or at least understanding yourself, is so important. So we're just going to hold for a couple more minutes as we see if more people want to arrive at the live. And just give us a couple moments and we'll start real soon. I'm wondering, hoping everybody is doing okay. As you might hear, it's a little hot here in New York City. You might be hearing my lovely air conditioner in the background because for some reason 6 p.m. seems to be the hottest time in my apartment. But we will survive, we have cool air, and things will go well. All right. So we're going to wait a couple more minutes. In fact, if you can get yourself a drink, I have this lovely little watermelon drink that I'm personally indulging in on this hot summer day. And I hope for those of you that are in the US, I hope you're having a had a wonderful 4th of July and 4th of July weekend. For those who are outside of the US, I just hope you had a wonderful weekend. And sure. So we're just going to wait a few more moments. Okay. So I guess we should just sort of start. To be honest, I'm going to be perfectly honest right now. This is my first time ever going live, and it was a bit of a doozy, but we're here now. We're going to start the class, and here we go. So, once again, hi. For those of you that are new, hi, my name is Alana. I am a life coach, and I really focus on how identity shapes who you are, what you do, and in how you actually go for your goals. And this is the first class in a series of classes for the month of July 2025 of finding yourself and how to find yourself. Now, this first class is going to deal primarily with why. Why find yourself? Why take the journey on finding out who you are? What is your true self and your true identity? And why does it even matter? Well, for many people, we go through life through automatic. We are, in lack of a better term, we are programmed from birth, from our parents, from our friends, from our society, even from the country that we live in. We are projected this expectation of who you are. And through those expectations of who you are, and since you don't have any, what do I say? You don't, since you gathered all of these little pieces from the expectation of your parents, your expectation of your friends, the expectation of your society. You take on all of these expectations, and through that, you move through the world. And usually, there are several times in your life where your glass mirror of who you are does break. The first time that this glass mirror of who you are does break is first. It breaks when you finally get done with school, whether that is your last day of school was in high school or the last day of school was college, graduate school. It's sort of at that time where you go, I'm an adult now, and what do I do? The second time that there is sort of this crack of this fracturing of knowing who you are, it usually happens somewhere in your late 30s to early 40s, commonly known as the midlife crisis, where you come to this point of questioning everything you've done before and trying to see your next move toward the next stage of your life. To now, instead of young adulthood, it's now just adulthood. Now, the third time that in our lifetime that we have this crack in our psyche of who we are is right at retirement. That time when, usually in your mid to late 60s, early 70s, where you decide that you no longer can work. Whether you decide you no longer will work, or that time when, to be quite honest, for us in the United States, when you're pushed out of work. And where, especially when you're doing a job for such a long time, you find yourself at this tension of, what do I do? Now, those are the three main times that we have this sort of hiccup, this break in who we are. Now, there are a couple other instances that we do have these hiccups and these times where we question who we are. Usually, it happens when there is some sort of death in the family, whether that is a family, friend, or child. Our mortality comes to the forefront. And with that mortality, we come to this point of reevaluating our own mortality. The other way that could also have us have this break in who we are is when we have an ending of a long standing relationship, usually a divorce. Sometimes it can also happen when a long term friendship has ended. Something that you thought was constant, something that you thought was yours, was a true part of yourself, you find that it no longer applies. So, what do these little cracks in our psyche of who we are as ourselves, why do we need to know who we are? For some people, they would say, well, you need to know who you are so you can tough it out through these times where you have this armor of, well, I know who I am and this is what I do, and F them, or I can get through this tragedy and just bulldoze through. Now, I'm saying that finding yourself is not a way to put armor on, it is a way to take your armor off. You see, the armor is a defense mechanism. But for you to be truly vulnerable, you need to know who you are. Because during those cracks, during those times where your self identity crumbles, you have to have a sense of who you are to build yourself up. Many times when we hit these cracks, as I've observed, these are times where we are the most vulnerable. It is the time when we reach out to family and friends and we are just trying to find answers. And in those times when we're trying to find answers is times that we are the most vulnerable. Vulnerable to manipulations, vulnerable to seeing things only a single way. By knowing who you are prior to those cracks in your facade, cracks in your identity, cracks in what you believe who you are. By knowing who you are before then, you can let go. You can revert yourself back to the small child that you are. And once the emotions subside, you remember who you are. Now, for most people who don't have a clear sense of who they are, when these cracks form, these cracks just keep going. There's nothing to heal, to be precise. And the crack, the fracture sort of stays. Because in that vulnerable state, you reach out for other people. And when you reach out for other people, you're subject to the manipulations of other people. And you don't learn to bring yourself back to who you are. And you don't really know who you are. So that is one of the reasons why I say it is imperative that you take time to find yourself. The second reason why I would say you should be finding yourself at this time is because when we set out goals for ourselves, oftentimes we're not setting goals based off of us. We're setting goals based off of someone else, what someone else is doing. For example, let's say I want to save $100,000. It's a big goal. And I said, okay, I want to save $100,000. And there is my goal. But I don't really have a why for it. Now, for most people, they would say, I want to save $100,000 because I want to be rich. And believe me, we all want to be rich. But does that really speak to you? What does being rich actually mean to you? Yes, rich is a purpose, a reason for going after $100,000. But does it speak to you and your soul? Does it speak to who you truly are on the inside? Or is it just based off of some guru said on social media, or something you read about in a textbook, or just because a celebrity said you should have $100,000? There should be something core inside of you, in your very being, of who you are, why you go after a certain goal. This goal should not be based off of comparison of someone else. And this goal shouldn't be based off of envy of someone. It should be based off of your true self inside of you. So, the first reason why you should know, why you should find yourself, is so that you are able to pick yourself up after a break, a time that you question yourself during those major moments from one stage of life to another. The second reason why you should find yourself is so that you can go after your goals and not take on the goals of someone else, so that you have more of a connection towards what you want to do in life. Now, now that I've sort of gone over the two reasons, and what I feel are the two main reasons why you should find yourself, you might be wondering, okay, Alana, what why is this so important? Why should you be telling me how to do this? Well, not too long ago, I was just living my life. I had a job where I was making decent money. I was finally making decent money, had money that I could put away in my 401k. I had money that I was going to my Roth. I had an apartment. I had friends. I had all of the things on the outside that said that I was a success. But I felt miserable because I kept coming to this one thought: why do I feel so miserable when I have done everything right? Now, it's when I started realizing that one sentence: why do I feel so miserable because I've done everything right? Right. What constitutes a right life? Based off of who? Based off of what made my life and the steps that I had gone through in my life right. And that with that, I went down a deep dive down the rabbit hole to truly find who I was and what did I want from this life. And when I actually dug down deep, I realized that I was just playing the game according to someone else's rules. Rules that did not really apply to me. Rules that were probably the perfect rules 20, 30 years ago, but did no longer was applicable, or what is the word I want to say? No longer up to date. These rules that was given to me by my parents, given to me by my friends, these rules given to me by society of what I should be doing. And I followed them to the letter. And still, The promise of being happy, the promise of being good still evaded me. So I switched it up. I spent time with myself, time with who I was, and systematically pulled back the layers of the manipulation, the well intentioned nudges, the expectations of others to find who I was and give me the strength to actually find those goals that I truly wanted, those goals that even on a rough day, I keep moving forward. And I want you to learn how to move forward on those rough days when you feel like nothing's going right. The world is in chaos. When everything is out here to distract you from who you are, distract you to be reactive, that you understand your path, your destiny, your way of being. So, in doing that, I'm here to help you find who you are. And right now, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to do some little bit of homework. It's not too hard, it's not too much. I'm going to ask you to find out who you are subconsciously. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how do I find myself subconsciously? Well, one of my best aha moments that a light bulb just clicked on my head, was when I took a personality test. Now, I know some people may be like, ugh, personality tests, why? But for me, taking a personality test was such an eye opening experience that I changed my whole reality. Because very few times do we get to see ourselves in the third person, see how we interact with the world through habits that we do, through things that the habits, the idiosyncrasies. Y'all, I don't say all words correctly, so bear with me. With all of our little quirks, we're just busy living our lives. And what personality quizzes usually do is able to bring what those traits that we don't think of a lot of and bring them to the surface. So between now and next Sunday, uh, what day is next Sunday? Hold on. Next Sunday, which is Sunday the 13th, July 13th, I'm going to ask everybody to go to fill out one of two or both um, personality quizzes. The one that I personally love is the Myers-Briggs personality test. The other one that I would also suggest, the Big Five. Both of these tests can be done for free online. If someone is telling you to pay money to do a test, don't do it. Do the free test. It takes about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to go through the entire test, and bring your test results back to this page, back to here. And we'll discuss next week on how to look at the Myers-Briggs test, how to look at the Big Five, and see what we might be hiding from ourselves. What parts of our personality are we hiding from ourselves, or things that we don't realize we're doing? So I thank you for those of you that have come by, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye.